Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Theatre Pitch podcast. I am Jem, this is Sean.
Hello, Gemma.
And this is Joe.
Hi.
And together, each episode, we take a random online encyclopedia article and we each come up with a pitch of how we would turn it into a theatre show. So this episode, Joe, have you got your radio voice and the article open to tell us and everybody what today's episode and article is about?
This week's article is about the Fleet Finch. The Fleet Finch, brackets, Fleet Model 16, close brackets, is a two-seat tandem training biplane produced by Fleet Aircraft of Fort Erie, Ontario. There are a number of variants, mainly based on engine variations, and over several years, beginning in 1939, a total of 447 Finches were built. Nearly all of them, brackets, 431 of them, were used as elementary trainers in the British Commonwealth Air Training Plan during the Second World War. So basically it's a training plane.
It's a training plane.
It's
a
an
training
old plane for
warplane.
training.
It's a training warplane. How did you guys find this one?
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Wow, you sound so enthused.
Yeah, I had no worries. I had no pitfalls. I had no ambitions of turning like a plain film into a musical this week. By the way, guys,
Really?
Stardust should be a musical. #Stardust musical.
Yeah, guys, Planes, Fire and Rescue should be a musical. #Planes, Fire and Rescue, the musical.
No, Joe.
Get on it,
Okay.
Disney Plus.
Joe, we're pushing one musical, and it's going to be Stardust. Okay.
All right, Shrek
Okay,
Forever After,
well-
the musical.
No, Joe. No. We can do that next season. Get on board. Hey, Jem, should we talk about
Yeah.
planes?
Yeah, let's talk about planes. You want to talk about planes, Sean?
No, I want to choke.
Good, I'm going to take this time to cough as well.
Oh, hello, everybody, for your ASMR
Staying
podcast in the time of a pandemic. I hope nobody's been too triggered by that moment. Sean, shall we try again? Would you like to talk about
That
planes?
weren't COVID. That was me choking on cider.
Yeah, that wasn't COVID
Oh.
either, that was some chives.
Yeah. So where was I?
You were about
Talking
to
about
start.
planes, Sean. Are you all right?
I was about. Do you know what? I don't think I am. I've got you know the theme song from Daytona. You know the old arcade game. That goes.
I know the old arcade game, I don't remember the theme song.
I got that in my head for some reason, and it just
that's,
just as soon as you started like here's the intro, it's in my head.
Yeah.
Sean,
Sorry, I think
Sean,
what you were actually humming there was Bob on Battlefield from Super Mario 64.
I have to ask, Sean, how much cider have you had?
No, Gemma, we're not because no answer I give here is a good answer. Because if I give like a high number, everyone thinks I've got an issue, and if I give a low number, everyone thinks like I've got an issue that I'm like this talking.
That you're a lightweight,
after
yeah.
one. I'm not even. No, I'm joking.
Sean, would you like to go first?
No, I would like you to go first.
Clearly you don't want to go first. I've never seen somebody dodge a pitch like this.
I was just
Okay,
thinking
I'll
to
go
myself,
first.
I wonder if we're ever going to have a situation where someone just says, "Hey, would you like to go first?" No. And then we had it.
There you go. This
Yeah,
is also
Jem,
an option.
I don't want to go
This
first.
is also an option in life. Okay, I'll go first.
When do you ever go first, Gemma? You're always first to go. Oh, do you want to go first? You never go first.
To be fair, Jem does quite
Technically-
frequently go first when I tell her to.
And technically, I go first every episode because I am the first words and voice that anybody hears. Sorry,
Yeah,
guys.
but you chose that. You were there like, well, I'm going to present it, aren't I? We were there like, yeah, probably.
Also, because I very frequently tell one of you two to go first to give me time to actually read the article and do a pitch.
Okay, well, I will be kind because I'm excited about my pitch because it's something that I actually might actually write.
And then rewrite. and then rewrite,
and then rewrite,
and then rewrite.
and then it will be finished when I'm sitting in the RAF museum. So I got I'll be honest, I didn't read the full article because much like real life, the whole idea about this podcast is that we take the article and use it as inspiration for an idea and for a theatre pitch. And I immediately knew after reading a few paragraphs exactly what I was going to do regardless, because this article is all about training planes in World War II, and my great-grandfather, Jack, trained pilots in Canada during World War II. So I have got quite a strong connection to planes and the fighter planes in World War II. And so I spent a little time this week learning more about the humanity side and learning more about my family history, which is quite fun. And so this is my pitch. It is set at, I want it to be put on at the Royal Air Force Museum, at the RAF Museum in North London. And it can tour to any of the other significant RAF sites, because there are quite a few around the country. Because I think it would be a very nice thing to engage in the heritage and the heritage education side of museums. That's the boring pitch, but essentially in a museum. So we open with a young girl of modern times. We're going to bookend it with a young girl of modern times going to the RAF museum to access their archives, because she has found out that her great-grandfather was part of the RAF during the Second World War, and that's all she knows. She has a name, and she knows that he was part of the RAF. And as she steps into the archives, we flashback, kind of Princess Bride style formatting, and going with that idea of your bookending. Shakespeare did it a lot. Bookend future with going back into the past. And the show is all about the human side of these planes, and going in and being surrounded by these planes, but following the young men and women who would go and fly. And it's that idea of learning to fly as a metaphor, but learning to fly within the darkest of circumstances. I kind of got stuck between the idea of whether you put the protagonist as the guy who trains all of these people, knowing, the mortality rates within World War II, or whether you follow one of the soldiers and pilots who went and learned to fly and went to fly. And very much I wanted to kind of bring to life the story of my grandfather, and also really examine this idea that after the war, my grandfather never flew again. And we don't really know too much. I know when I spoke to my grandfather I sent him the article and I was like, is this something that Jack would have flown? And we have no evidence as to whether he did or not. But this is cool. It's something that I wanted to do, is to go into the RAF museum, into their archives, but the archives are only open on weekdays, and they've been closed on the weekdays that I've been able to have off because lockdown. But yeah, that was my idea, was looking into the history of the humanity and this idea of these planes being a backdrop and more of a vehicle to tell the human story of flying.
So this is less a question, more just an upfront apology, Gem. Shortly before you began your pitch, I decided on my idea. I can't be bothered to think of a second one. And I'm so sorry for what I'm about to do later on and what you'll have to smush with this very kind of poignant personal story.
I am genuinely
I'm just apologising now.
scared.
I was thinking during that, I was like, well, we can't be funny this week because she's talking about her great grandfather. We can't say anything at all. But clearly, Joe was like, well, no, I ain't thinking of the second one.
I mean, if there's anything to do with like sense of humor being inherited, we can definitely be funny. But I'm now just scared of what Joe's going to pitch.
The sense of humor you've inherited from your great grandfather, we definitely can't be funny.
No, I'm not. I meant I could take a joke.
Joe.
Joe!
Oh, did that one just sneak up on you?
I knew
Point
it was
proof?
coming. I teed it up. I'd seen it coming. I teed it up. But you know what I didn't do? I didn't put any pitches on the field to catch it.
Right, I'm just going to say one thing. My favourite bit of that whole pitch was when Gemma was like, oh, it's like in The Princess Bride, and realised, well, I'm Gemma. It's actually like in Shakespeare. It was like, I need to drag my reference up a little bit. No, Gemma, I like that.
It's that. Like in Paul Blart Mall Cop, I mean Brecht.
No, I just like this idea of, you know, this where you can wander around the RAF museum, and it's sort of an on promenade piece as this young girl learns more about her heritage and her connection to these planes. You know, and through that, you know, the scenes happen around you as if it's kind of kind of utilizing that movie style thing of cutting in and out.
Can I make one suggestion?
Go on.
So your thing, is it one person's story, or is it different people's stories?
I think it can be influenced by different people. I mean, this is where I was kind of stuck, because there's two ways you can go with the narrative. Is that you can have multiple people's stories, multiple people's stories, by having like the protagonist and the point of access into the story being the pilot trainer, so the equivalent of my great grandfather, because that he would have interacted with a lot of different war stories. Or you could be one person's story and it'd be a fictitious person, or somebody else that gets researched, and of that story of going to flight school, learning to fly, going to war. So, but I couldn't decide.
So you don't know.
I don't know.
No, because I'm thinking if you went with it's multiple stories, which might be similar to my idea. If you went with that, especially if you're sitting in a museum, if you ever go to like places like the Black Country Museum, they usually have volunteers in like the different houses, and that person can be like tells a story about that house, and it's different to like you go to the pub and it's a different. This is
this is.
I was thinking if you had multiple stories interwoven in your story, you could have like it's at different planes. It's at different and like it's all like that story's set around that plane. That story's set around that plane. So you're still going around the museum as a museum, but it's when you get to different key, and it's only at planes that were during like that period that your story's set.
Can you say, I then genuinely, despite having read this week's article and knowing what it's about, thought you were on about different planes of existence.
Wow.
I was like, okay, so wait, we'll have some scenes in the astral plane. That's pretty interesting. And then realized, no, he meant planes.
He meant
I meant aeroplanes. Yeah.
Sent no Tree of Life stuff here, Joe.
We're just going to stop for 15 minutes while we find out the entire history of humanity.
Dormammu, I'm here to bargain.
I got a feeling Joe's hinting at a second idea.
Oh, I really hope Joe's is.
I don't get why you go Tree of Life, then immediately quote Doctor Strange.
I'm just thinking different planes of existence, aren't I?
I thought you were about that famous quote from Terrence Malick's The Tree of Life, Dormammu, I am here to bargain.
It's the only quote I could think of off the top of my head, and it's probably I probably remember that because like he says it like 200 times and then dies and then comes back again.
To be fair, I think it's one of the only memorable lines of dialogue in that film.
I can't believe you're back talking me. You're the one who thought I meant like planes of existence when the article is a literal plane, and you're the one now having a go at me because I'm trying to make it look like you don't seem like an idiot that much.
So, any other questions?
I'm yes-anding you, Joe. God's sake.
Yeah, and I'm no-butting you. It's a valid move in the same way.
And I'm just talking to Gemma now. No, Gemma, no question.
Yeah.
Cool.
Gem, I like your idea.
I like it.
I can't be mean about it for once.
Yay!
I like it.
This is what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop you guys from bullying me just by like playing on the sentimental things and just choosing subjects nobody can attack.
It's not
Stop
the
saying we
sentimental
bully
thing.
you.
I just think you're actually invested in it for once, and I like that.
Yeah,
For once, I'm invested in all of my ideas, especially ones that strap GoPros to dogs.
I don't know. Sometimes you talk a lot, and it feels like you're just trying to like spread it out a little bit, like you didn't really think of something. Don't worry, Jem. I do the opposite. Where you spread an idea out, I just go, "It's this, done. It's this, but a musical."
Done. Okay. So shall we, Sean? Shall you and I get Joe back and make him go next after
No,
his...
Joe should definitely go last. Joe should go that.
So Sean, before you pitch yours,
Oh
can I guess
God.
what it is?
It's not Top Gear, but a musical. Not Top Gear, Top Gun.
I was about to say I have two guesses. It's either
go on
Starlight Express with planes, or it's a sequel to your theatre piece you suggest about the Bravest, building up building up a kind of like utility vehicles theatrical universe.
It's my rollerblade theatrical universe, isn't it?
I need it.
It's my RMU.
Sean, what's your pitch, Sean? Go for it.
Okay, so it is. So you remember I pitched that show called The Bravest? No. I tell you what it is. So you know that... No, guys, serious now. So you know that film Stardust?
Oh gosh.
It's that, but it's a musical.
Hashtag,
And how do
Stardust
planes fit in there, Sean?
It's gonna open in Broadway, so we have to get on a plane to go and watch it. No, I'm joking, guys. Come on, Joe, get serious. Okay, so my idea is, it is a plane. I'm gonna put a plane on stage. I'm gonna get not the literal plane, because like you said, there's only got 400, but I'm gonna get a biplane on stage, because it's a biplane. Biplanes look really cool. Everyone knows.
Okay.
2-seater biplane on stage, and it's facing, so like the front of it is facing the back of the stage. So like as the audience, we see it from the viewers, like, oh, I'm driving it. But yeah, and the whole show is it's very similar to yours. But it's not in a museum. It's in a theatre. It's on stage, and it's a collection of short conversations, short stories, as you were, between like two characters. So that could be the pilot and the co-pilot, like making pre-flight checks. It could be the engineers, working on the plane. It could be I don't like the corporals. It could be like the people training. They're going around like, this is the plane, and it's a collection of stories from the people that were involved in like a plane's life during the war. And it's really it's not about the plane. It's about the people around the plane and how they, how the war impacted them. Like the First World War and the Second World War. Because I might be wrong. But like there was a big difference to how planes were used in both wars.
Yeah.
'Cause in like the First World War, they started off being used as like, well, we're just gonna go up there and have a map, have a look round where everyone is. That's when like so that's how it started, and then like then the pilots started throwing bricks at one another, and then they started like taking handguns up and like shooting. Then they started like, well, let's just put a gun on this and start doing dogfighting. So then when you got into World War Two, it was already like, well, this is a weapon. It's not a tool anymore. So it could be like conversations like that, and then so like that's what I want, like different characters, you know, talking to one another. I want to get the sense of maybe not the comedy aspect, but you know that you know the last scene of Blackadder where they're going over, and then there's that like silence and then like an acceptance. I sort of want the last scene to be the two pilots in the plane going off to fight, and the back opens and the plane goes through the back, and then it closes, and that's how it stops. But I want the last scene to be like them like preparing, and then there just being like a silence between the two of them, because they don't need to say anything more to each other. They know what they're doing, they know where they're going, they know what it could be, and then they just like the back opens and then they leave, and that's how it ends. So like there's no setting. It's literally it's about these characters, and it ends with that sort of like thing. And I tell you where I got the idea from. There was a production of the Railway Children in I think 2015, I want to say ish, around about that time, set in. It was performed at a disused station. No, it wasn't York. I mean, it did go to York, but it was in a disused station in the Victoria station, and they actually had a train, and that was like they had like it weren't like no prop. It was like a literal train. So I want like a literal plane, because I always feel like on stage when you've got the actual thing, it looks so much better, and then the pretend thing, it has sort of it has a
gravitas.
Yeah, and a sense of like it's in like a sense of it doesn't belong in this building. You're meant to be somewhere else, and that's why like stuff like that always stands out.
Yeah.
And I that's why I like the railway. I don't think I can say it right. The Railway Children production, because it was a literal plane. It wasn't like Miss Saigon, when like it's a fake plane. It's a fake helicopter comes in, or like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, where it's like it's a car and a crane. It's like, oh no, this is the actual vehicle.
How dare they not have a real flying car?
It's bullshit.
How dare them?
It's like it's the vehicle there on stage, and that's. I think it'd be really impressive when you go in and sit down and all you can see is this plane. Yep.
Yeah.
That's my show, guys.
I like it a lot.
That's my show, and it's gonna be performed in the Olivier Theatre at the National Theatre. Because the reason why I've gone with that, because it has the big back that opens, but it's also it's like it surrounds like half of the stage. So like the audience are like, they're not just like dead on to the plane. They sort of surround it a little bit more, and that's what I'm going for.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
It's all right, isn't it? It's an all right idea.
I like it, and I can see how that can smush with mine. So I'm a little bit nervous about what is going to come out of Joe's mouth.
What comes out of Joe's mouth? Do you have any
questions for Sean first?
Yeah, Jem, you got any questions for my idea? Or is it just
don't.
that it's Joe, it's such a good idea. She don't need no more questions.
No, I don't. I really like it, and I can see it and I can picture it. You painted it well in my own head.
Yeah, Joe.
I do want to ask Sean just one question, which is, how much of this is you want a plane on stage, and how much of it is you wanting this idea for a play?
It did start off as when you said the article, and it was like, well, it's a plane, and I was like, well, I'm having a plane on stage.
And that's why you were like, well, I need
is...
a big theatre if I'm going to get a plane on stage.
Oh, no. I think the reason I went big theatre, because I think straight away I was like, I wanted the plane to be the centrepiece, and I was trying to work out, do I do it in the round, so like it's a literal plane in the middle, but then I also thought it's a biplane, so unless I'm like rotating the stage, the people on one side are just gonna like, well, that's a nice front of a plane, so that's why I went to like, well, you know, sort of like they're only on one side. And then eventually I got to the idea of like, well, I want the ending to be like the two pilots, you know, going off, and there being like a silence between the two of them. Because I also think that's brilliant in theatre, when you've got like a silence, but it's on purpose. Because there's nothing more impactful in theatre than a silence. Now, if it's a silence that's meant to be there, it really does something to the audience. If it's not meant to be there, it really messes up the performers. I tell you, when you're there, like, oh, bada bada ba ba, and then there's no sound in the crowd, you're like, oh my god, this weren't funny, da da da, and you just sort of like go crazy in your head, and you come off stage, and you know you have a little cry a little bit, Matt. That's what I've heard. Anyway. So then I thought, well, I want the plane to disappear into the darkness, and that's eventually why I ended up in like the biggest theatre in the National Theatre. Boom. I didn't just make this stuff up. I actually think about it sometimes. You come with me and I'll connect the dots.
Okay.
Now, Joe, you tell me about the theatre that you're doing yours in and the reasons why.
Well, actually, funnily enough, we do actually kind of have to start with the theatre for this week, because guys, I don't know if you know, but at the Italo-Canadian Club in Fort Erie, Ontario, there's a lovely little theatre company called Garrison Little Theatre that they do dinner theatre performances. Apparently, according to one review, 4 stars, reasonable ticket price, the pasta dinner never fails to disappoint, and the show was pretty good.
So is it dinner and a show at the same time, or is it like at the old stock in Birmingham where you have dinner in the pub and then you go into the theatre?
Oh no, like I'm assuming the audience around this time will be seeing the image of it on screen, but basically it's kind of cabaret style seating. And there's a little stage at the front where the play goes on while you have a nice pasta dinner. 2 courses, water available at the bar. And I'm just going to ask you, what is the most popular form of dinner theatre?
Most popular form of dinner theatre? It's
murder mystery.
It's when you go to Nando's and there's like a loud couple that have just split up.
Okay, sorry, I did forget about that's the best. But the second most popular form is murder mystery.
Murder mystery, okay. Yeah.
The third, I would argue, is horror. Now,
that's probably the least. I don't want to see horror stuff.
No, that's what you want. Go with it. You're having a pasta dinner and watching a horror film.
At no point do I want horror and what I'm eating to meet.
No.
Okay, so go with me on this one. If you read further down the article, you'll notice that, in fact, 447 were produced during the war, but in total, including the Model 16s, there were 606 Fleet Finches produced. So, my idea is, it's set in the year 2039. A war commemoration is going on in the town of Fort Erie. A mysterious rich benefactor has ordered the production of 60 more Fleet Finches for the town of Erie for their celebration. But something's gone slightly wrong with the 666th one. You see, back during the training camps in the war, there was one kid who kept getting bullied by the rest of the people at the training camp. And one day they messed with his plane, just like a harmless prank, or so they thought, till the plane crashed and he died. And now his spirit is back to get revenge on the town that killed him in the 666th Devil plane. So what we're going to try and do is, in a tiny dinner theatre in a small town in Ontario, put on a John Carpenter-esque horror film play about... It'll be a multimedia experience about...
Okay.
About a possessed plane coming back to get revenge on the town where he was murdered.
Okay.
Any questions?
Hasn't Stephen King already done that, but with a car?
Yeah, it's kind
I
of
don't know,
Christine.
but
yeah,
There's definitely a supernatural episode that's about this.
Also, in my head, every night the show ends with, out in the car park, them fighting the devil plane by having a dogfight with one of the red arrows.
Okay.
My favourite
I'm
bit of
jotting it
all of
down.
this is that Gemma was making notes on everything you were just saying there. That was my favourite bit.
I am. And
if you were wondering,
the notes have got lots of...
The hero of the play, giving you some room for smushing, is
Don't say my granddad.
No, it's a young journalist who's come back to the town to cover the celebrations, who hasn't been back there since his childhood, and so he's kind of, or he or she or they, they're seeing the town through the eyes of kind of everything that they've missed. Also, there are going to be biplanes in the car park, and we're still going to have a nice pasta dinner. Any questions?
Does it have to be pasta dinner?
Yeah, Maria's Catering only provided 2-course pasta dinner. They made that very clear in the reviews.
2-course pasta dinner.
I think it's like a pasta soup and then a plate of, like, I don't know, like spaghetti and meatballs or something. I don't know.
Oh,
I didn't get the menu.
Why are we in Canada?
Because the planes were primarily trained in Canada.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Did you read the article, Sean?
Yeah.
Do you know what?
Also, yes, this was entirely so that I could make a pun about having Fort Erie with 2 E's.
Oh, no. No, Joe. No.
Is it going to be a comedy?
Yeah, it's a horror comedy in a stage tribute to my beloved kind of late 70s, early 80s John Carpenter classics.
I'm down for the John Carpenter stuff. I'm down for that. I'm quite like thinking how you're going to make the plane in that sort of style.
I mean, we'll put a plane out in the
can it be coming out
in the
of
car
the
park?
actor? So it's like body horror, and it's just like growing out of him. He's just like growing like biplane wings.
I would love to know how you do that with prosthetics.
Yeah, well,
I genuinely would.
You don't want to know where I'm putting the propeller.
But yeah, yes, there would be a point at which just as a plate of spaghetti and meatballs was brought out to everybody, that would be just as someone was getting their guts pulled out by a demon plane.
Yeah.
No.
I have the most important question to ask.
Sure.
Does the hero beat the demon plane, or is this like you think he's beat him, but then like he doesn't, and it's got like the thing ending where it's like, oh, did they get in? Did they? Yeah. Oh, I don't know.
I think what we do is we do a little bit of ambiguity where we have a flashback where we see that like almost the person, the kind of demonic kind of presence in the plane, when they were human, they had like a particular phrase they kept using. Like it might be like, good go, sport, or something like that. And then
Say
right
that
at
again,
the
Joe.
end of it, the hero's just like, good go, sport. and
Oh,
you're
like
like,
that.
oh,
Oh, ooh.
yeah, shivers like.
See, okay, right. I love my idea. I love Sean's idea. The imagery of Sean's idea is so cool. And I thought I'd hate
And then-
this.
You know what I said about
But the-
awkward silences, Joe?
But no. I am a massive Supernatural fan. Like of the TV show Supernatural, but also of just Supernatural in general. And so this is ticking every single box other than the you've pitched this in the same realm as I pitched my great grandfather, the veteran of the Second World War.
I pre-apologized. I can't make that clear enough.
It's true.
I can't believe Gemma is like on board for your idea. That's
I love it.
it.
It's got ghosts and planes. I love it.
I think essentially when I say multimedia
pasta.
experience, what I mean here is actually we're just going to show a film, and
No, Sean, what you don't, what
why
you
is
fail
it
to
a theatre?
Sean, what you fail to realise is it's got Supernatural, it's got engineering and war and stuff, and like planes, which are always fun, and I like planes, and it's got dinner included.
Yeah, like I did think the nice 2-course pasta dinner was going to swing it.
You know what? You guys just do what you want to do. Okay.
Can it be carbonara?
I had good imagery. I had meaning. I had like.
So did I.
You know, I thought, well, Gemma's definitely gonna be on board now because mine's serious and it's got like soul. But no, Gemma was like, no, yours has got soul, but Joe's has got like lots of different souls and they're alive and they're in planes.
Yeah, it's like, Sean, you've got an actually good idea. Joe, you have a rip-off of Christine, Friday the 13th, and at least 5 other films that you're doing in a small dinner theatre in a town in Canada.
All I'm saying, Joe, is that your show could be very, very much like Nightmare if you aren't careful.
Yeah.
You could be thinking it's a light-hearted comedy, and then next thing you know, it's
You're eating
quote,
meatballs whilst watching somebody's intestines.
and they're
be
in your
ripped
hand,
out.
Joe, and they're not just anyone's meatballs.
Oh, I thought you were on about Nightmare Live.
No,
I was
not
like,
with a
what?
K.
We can't make Nightmare the thing we bring up every week, Sean. Please.
It's very niche.
Yeah, it is very niche.
For anyone
Okay.
who doesn't get this joke, listen back to last week's episode.
I like that Gemma just told us off there for being very niche, telling a story that only me and Joe can relate to. Even though our Fringe show that we've been planning is pretty much a show that only me and Joe can relate to.
Though oddly, it's the show that everybody's like, "Oh, I really want to see that." So we are now We are now cutting to the smush. It's the part of the podcast where we have to take Jem and Sean's idea that smush quite nicely and add in ghosts, and dinner theatre.
You know
I
what we
gotta be
could
honest,
do?
I'm still so
Sean
happy about my
has-
plan.
Sean's had an idea.
I've always had this idea, and I came up with this idea at university, and everyone told
Uh-oh.
me you can't do that because someone might get killed. Right?
I want to hear it. Tell us.
Yeah. That was
You'd be
literally the
surprised
feedback.
how
I
many
got.
ideas Sean had at university, of which that was the main complaint.
So I was like, you can't do proper horror in theatre because everyone knows it's not real. I was like, what you need to do is you need to do a horror show, but not tell the audience that they're in that horror show. So I always said we need to just sort of like get like one of the theatre societies to do another show, but then we take over and turn it into like the zombie apocalypse during like the mid. So like it could have been like someone doing a musical, and then next thing you know, there's a zombie, and we've planted some people in the audience, and we just do a zombie apocalypse. So what we do is we start off doing Gemma's show, and a combination of mine and Gemma's show, and then we get to about halfway, and then it just turns out that all the planes are haunted, and then we just go into Joe's show, and no one knows what's real or not real. We play with their heads.
I think the RAF Museum may have an issue with that.
The National Theatre won't. We'll just say it's immersive, and they'll be like, "Yes, let's do it."
We'll just tell them punch drunks on board, and they'll be like, yeah.
I do agree that is quite dangerous. I do remember the show you did, Sean, where it was a zombie apocalypse, and I do remember getting really genuinely quite freaked out.
Yeah, it was everyone used to think like, is that homeless guy in the show?
Yeah,
they walked past him. He was.
To be honest, I'd be more on board with your smush idea if I wasn't so aware of how well you can blend the lines between theatre and reality already, because I was genuinely quite riled by the apocalypse show that you did.
I keep forgetting you have a fear of zombies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
My solo show is about zombies, and I have a phobia of them. That's
but it's
where
important
the show
to note,
came from.
I didn't say zombies. I said possessed ghost plane. So that's not a fear of yours yet.
You'll be fine.
Ghosts
Gemma.
I'm good with. I've watched enough Supernatural to know how to deal with those, but zombies are always just a bit grabby. But oh no, that's really freaked me out. Yeah, so
what about zombies in planes? It's the sequel to Snakes on Planes.
I've just thought, can I pitch another thing for my show I've just thought of?
Yeah, Joe, we're not taking it seriously. Do what you want.
That's fine. Just before they think they've destroyed it, there's the kiss off line just before they kill like the main kind of like the demon plane.
Okay.
And this one's line is just going to be, bye, plane.
No.
Because it's a biplane. No, come on. Let's smush.
No.
Let's smush,
That's
guys.
good.
Okay, I figured out
shit.
how we can smush him. I figured out how we can smush him. Because I'm going to just take the things that I like best out of all of our
Let me guess. Is your version of how to smush it going to be you do a mixture of yours and Sean's show but with a pasta dinner?
No, actually, I really want to include the pasta dinner. I really want to include this
pasta dinner.
So, it's set at the RAF Museum. With your ticket, a pasta dinner is included in the canteen because we don't want people getting pasta dinners all over the objects and at the museum, because that's a conservative's nightmare. So you get a pasta dinner, right? And then you go to a show, which is set in one of the planes. So we can do this as like a series, so we can go through all of the different planes, right? And it's kind of my idea where you're looking at actual human stories, and then it's Sean's idea of them focusing around the one life of the plane. But the twist is that one or multiple of the people that like our protagonist meets with this plane are ghosts. And he doesn't realize that they're ghosts until the end, because lots of people die on planes, especially warplanes. And the planes, if the crew of a plane die and the plane survives, the plane doesn't get retired. The plane gets put back out with a fresh crew. So, ghosts. Or if it's a training plane, it could be it could be a ghost stuck in its infinite loop. Once it's gone out to get to if the person went out and died on their first mission, and they blamed poor training or whatever, that they'd be in a loop, stuck in training. If anybody doesn't know what that is in the supernatural thing, there's a theory that ghosts just relive moments of their life, and it's called a loop. There you go. So the twist is there's ghosts and there's dinner, but it's mainly Sean and Jem's idea. How's that sound?
I mean, can there still be a strong element of
It's set at Halloween
cheesy
as well.
puns, and it's also Halloween. Yeah.
Yes. And yes. I'm not 100% on board with the puns, but I will accept.
Yeah. Also, if they're going to be serving a pasta dinner, can it be a penne arrabbiata?
He's sitting on that.
My organs squirm every time you do this, Joe.
This is my favourite episode yet.
You're not meant to be able to feel your organs, but when you pun like that, I do.
We did it, guys.
We did it.
I'm
gonna
happy with
accept
the
that
smush.
I like that as a smush, as like a little twist. Not entirely sure if it is educational enough to be able to be set at the RAF Museum, but if not, we can set it at the National Theatre with just a plain.
Yeah, and if we want to make it more educational, I don't know, there can be just a session beforehand where you find out how to make your own pasta.
Yeah, that's it. Pasta's easy.
Yeah.
No, pasta's very quick
on World
to
War
make.
II rations, you figure out how
Yeah,
to make a pasta meal.
to make pasta and a sauce from World War II rations.
Yeah, there you go.
Good
Jen.
luck with that amount of cheese.
There's
There
your
we go.
education.
Educational.
I like it. I mean, the story could be just a case of like a young person going to learn more about the history of a plane and then encountering people around that plane, and they don't realize that those people are ghosts. So there you go. There's even a closer smush of the two narratives.
Yeah,
I'm happy with that.
We did it, Gemma. We did it.
We did it. All right. Cool. If
Yeah.
you're listening, tell us which one you think is best, whether it's the sentimental Gem, the visually stunning Sean, the what the fuck Joe, and
Body horror
the,
and pasta dinner, baby.
smush.
It's the new mix.
I won't lie
and the
to you.
smush.
I think mine is the best, but I know for a fact that if I watched all three of them, I would go back to Joe's.
I know I know.
100%.
And it's not just because of the pasta dinner.
I would be on the way home and they'd be like, oh, what shows did you see? And I'd be like, I saw this one show about a plane, but it was a ghost. And I wouldn't stop talking about it at all. And everyone would be like, oh, Sean and his theatre. Right, guys.
Yeah.
So if you want to find out more about us, about Joe's life, Gemma's, I don't know. I don't know how to end this one. I've got to end it. So, guys, if you want to find out more stuff about One Foot in the Door, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, and you can find all that out by Googling Linktree, OFITD, and it's there, and you can click all the links. It's going to be much quicker than me telling you where to find them. But yeah, it's in the description of whatever you're listening to this on, whether that's on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. It's all down there. There we go. So if you want to follow me as well for stuff, I'm on Instagram and Twitter at StillShawneeB. If you want to follow Gemma, she's got some new shows. She's got a new podcast that she's going to probably plug in a bit. Hey, Gemma.
Yeah.
Do you
Hi.
plug in stuff?
Yeah, so you can follow me on OFITD_Gem. That's Gem with a J. And Sean and I are doing a podcast called Happiness Anonymous with good friend Kate. And I'm doing more episodes of that by myself. And you can find that on Instagram as well as Happiness Anonymous Show. So you can get lots of happy spam stuff there.
Great. Hey, Joe, do you want to plug yourself as well?
Yeah, if you want to find me online, you can do so at Not Joe Ranchka. That's NOTJOERACZKA. If you want to find me on there, we can talk about things like The Final Girls, an affectionate tribute to 80s horror movies. That, yes, I did probably steal from that for this as well. You can also find me on Cannon Fodder with Joe and Joe, new episode coming sometime this year, and Boat Club, new episodes every week on YouTube and frequently on the podcast streams. And I'm guessing you want to find out now about what next week's article is, don't you, Sean?
We do.
We
Yes.
do, yeah.
All right. Well, guys,
I'm
you know what?
concerned.
You know what? After all that, dinner theatre talk this week, I really fancy, some kind of tasty, fish dish with my pasta. Which is a good thing, because next week's article is catfishing! Catfishing is a deceptive activity where a person creates a fictional persona or fake identity on a social networking service, usually targeting a specific victim. This may be for financial gain, to compromise a victim, or to intentionally upset them for wish fulfillment.
The way you phrased that and went into that, I genuinely thought, I was like, I didn't think you can eat catfish.
You can.
Aren't they poisonous?
No, fried catfish is a delicacy in the States.
Oh. The poor whiskery fishies. Brilliant. Okay, so that's next week's episode and article. And this week's was fun as well. So let us know by any means whose pitch you thought was best. But until then, thank you so much for listening, everybody, and we will see you, hear you, listen to you in the next one. Bye.
Hang on,
Pitch out,
Joe.
bitches.
Joe, before you say that, she does this every week. You can't hear the audience or see the audience.
What do you say? What do you
say
say?
goodbye. You don't say
It's very
goodbye.
clear. Jem, do you know what you say?
No.
Pitch out, bitches!